So we've got a real treat for you today. We're going to show you around Virgin's new ship, the Brilliant Lady. We were lucky enough to spend a whole afternoon and evening on this boat before her first voyage.
So we're going to show you around the ship. We're going to show you some of the restaurants, the bars, the food. We've sampled the entertainment. We've seen a good choice of the staterooms, and we've also seen the outside deck areas, the gym, and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to tell you all about that, show you what it looks like, and we're also going to give you our initial impressions as to what we thought about this brand new ship. This is the fourth of Virgin Voyages ships, and it's a cruise line that attempts to be different. So let's see if they manage to achieve it.
So I was really excited to try out Virgin's new ship because we hadn't done one before, and Virgin is known for trying to be a bit different, for going for a hotel boutique-y vibe rather than the grand cruises that we've been on before. So let's see what we found out.
Inevitably, this is literally a brand new ship. The crew had been on it for a month and they've been doing their training, and we were literally the second set of people on board, the second day where Virgin were inviting people to come and have a look. So everything was absolutely spotlessly clean and everything was brand new. So obviously you would expect that side of it to be pretty good, which it was. But there have been some observations about the three previous ships, and one particularly big flaw which people have mentioned. We will address that later on to see if Virgin have done anything to make changes to make that more appealing.
So let's start with the good stuff.
Yeah, so, and there is a lot of it, by the way. We were generally really impressed with this ship, and the first thing that struck us is just how friendly and competent and well trained the crew were.
Yeah, they were really great. Everyone we met was exceptional. They were very friendly. They've obviously been exceedingly well trained, and they're also well treated by the sounds of it.
Yeah, we were chatting to a couple of them, and Virgin obviously kind of focuses on the crew well-being. And I think that some of the crew have moved from other cruise lines to Virgin based on the fact that they get things like free internet. So Virgin is very keen that they can keep in touch with their families.
And they have shorter contracts as well.
Yeah, I think their maximum contract length was about 6 months, which obviously means they're away from home for a shorter period of time.
Which leads us on to another good point for the customer, which is tips are included.
And there was no attempt to levy additional gratuities or tips, even in the drinks, which would appear to be you pay that price and there's no additional fee on top from what we could see.
Now, an excellent strong point that we noticed pretty quickly was the quality of the food. The food seems really, really good. We went first in and had some pizza, and it's got to be probably the best pizza I've ever had on a cruise ship.
And that is praise indeed.
I'm also very fussy about the ice cream, and the selection of free ice cream is amazing and tastes really good. The buffet layout is amazing and easy to get round, and the quality was really high.
Yeah, so Virgin has a different approach to its restaurants. So there is no such thing as a main dining room on Virgin.
No.
And that, I think, on balance is a positive thing. It does mean that you don't get the consistency and the rapport that you build up with other cruise lines with your waiting staff. But on the other hand, they have a series of effectively speciality restaurants.
About 7 or 8.
Yeah, which are all included in your cruise fare. You can pay for additional, slightly better quality meals in some of them if you want to, but certainly based on what we saw from the kitchen, or the restaurant which we ate in, which is called the Test Kitchen, I'm not sure you would really need. It's a bit like Gilding the Lily, I thought, and you don't need to pay extra because the standard was really high, wasn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. We liked it. We went and looked around all the speciality restaurants, and they look amazing.
And that, if you look at the reviews online, then that is one of the big things that attracts people to Virgin, is the fact that the food is great quality, and the speciality restaurants do not levy an extra fee, because you can go to Royal Caribbean, for example, and you could end up paying $70 or $80 per head to eat in the state restaurant, whereas on Virgin, that's included.
So moving on from food, if we get on to drinks now, Virgin also does this quite differently. Before we talk about the drinks packages, best thing that I noticed was that soda and juices and water and tea and coffee, all of it is absolutely free.
Depending on which cruise line you go with, you can be paying anything between $7 and $20 a day for the package. So that is and if you compare it with, say, Princess, where the juice offering is virtually zero, it's a fantastic addition to have, particularly if you're not necessarily big time into alcohol, but you do like to drink sodas and juices.
Now, if you're like me, you'll have noticed that most cruise ships now, the drink packages are extremely expensive. Now, Virgin doesn't do drink packages as all the other cruise lines do.
But the way it works is you pay per drink, and there's some sample drink prices on the screen now. They're pretty reasonable, actually, bearing in mind there's no additional gratuities added to these from what we could see. But the way that it works is you can either just say, right, I'm going to have them added to my stateroom bill and pay at the end of the cruise, or if you want to, you can choose to buy credit in advance, and if you do that, then you get a bonus, and the bonus is, I think, anything up to about 25%. There's some figures on the screen now to give you an idea of how that works. But the great thing about this, bear in mind the fact that if you have a drinks package, you can only use that drinks package in theory for yourself, and if you're in a stateroom with another adult, they have to buy that same drinks package. Whereas on Virgin, one passenger could buy the credit and they can use it for whoever they like. So I thought that was a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of doing it, and I look forward to trying it in the future. Now, Virgin seem to be aiming for a slightly younger crowd, younger than us, ironically. However, they do not.
People with hair.
However, they do not accept children, so no under 18s, which will appeal to many. And you can see this around the boat, that their sport facilities for young adults are amazing. The gym is great. They had little pull-up bars by the jacuzzis and the pool. They had like a boxing area. So yes, for young adults, I would say the sporting facilities are amazing, and also the fitness classes are free. The spinning and the aerobics, which again, other cruise lines seem to be charging more and more for. So well done, Virgin.
Yeah, so you can end up paying anything between $10 and $30 a class on some ships for things like spinning. So for that to be included, if you're into that sort of thing, then that is a major bonus. Now, when you consider that this ship has a guest capacity of about 2,800, the spa is particularly impressive. It's a big area. It's got great facilities. They do push quite hard, and they certainly on our tour, they do push quite hard the massages and all these therapies and all that kind of stuff that you can do if you want to. And yeah, the spa is great. It's not the cheapest spa we've seen on a ship.
Perhaps they thought you needed it.
They surely not. So it's not the cheapest spa that you will see on a ship. So the prices we were quoted were $79 for a day, a sea day, or $59 for a port day, or around about $300 and something for a full cruise pass, which is quite a lot when you compare it with other cruise lines like MSC World Europa, for example, where I think we probably paid about €100 for the whole cruise.
I think MSC was quite cheap. I think other cruise lines are slightly more.
One thing that I liked, and this is only a small thing, is that we've been on 2 ships now where the elevators have been this ridiculous system where you choose the floor that you want to go to and then it finds an elevator for you, which felt to me like it just slowed the whole process down. Virgin, considering this is a brand new ship, have decided to go with traditional elevators where you press a button to go up or down and then you choose an elevator, the elevator arrives and then you put inside the elevator where you want to go.
So if
I really like that.
If that's a thing that upsets you, then you'll like Virgin. So one of the things I exceptionally liked whilst wandering around the Virgin Brilliant Lady was the numerous amounts of quirky areas, so many that you can find, and all beautifully done inside and out. So big thumbs up for that, Virgin.
So we were given a viewing of about 5 different types of staterooms, ranging from the inside staterooms, which which is where we would typically find ourselves, all the way through to the biggest suite you have ever seen in your life.
Amazing.
Certainly if you're like us and very rarely get even a balcony cabin. They had a kind of almost like an IKEA showroom type of feel to them, didn't they?
Yeah, they seemed really spacious, really nicely done. Even I'd be happy in an inside cabin. I'd obviously be happier in the massive cabin. But yeah, really nicely done, but with an IKEA feel, which I think my mother wouldn't like, but younger generation would be very happy with.
Yeah, the wardrobe, for example, the traditional wardrobe with a door was quite small, but then you had this kind of hanging space protected by a curtain, didn't you? Which is great. I mean, we'd be fine with that, but I think maybe more traditional cruisers might not be quite so keen. So on Celebrity Edge class ships, they've gone for this new balcony design called an infinite balcony. Virgin have not done that. It's a standard balcony, but every balcony has this kind of little hammock stroke seat thing, which is a bit of an iconic thing about these ships, and it is actually quite comfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. So there's an awful lot to really like about Virgin, but there were a few things that we just want to kind of raise attention to, and the first one being entertainment. Now, they put on a show for us in the theatre. First of all, the theatre accommodated about 500 people, didn't seem that big to us, didn't have any kind of wow factor to it, but fair enough. We then watched the show that we kind of thought would be really good as their kind of showcase show, and it was just average, if I'm honest.
The theatre is clearly very high tech, with these kind of fantastic little kind of screens at the back of the performers, which does give a great effect. But it just felt a little bit soulless. It was very square, and it felt a little bit lacking in atmosphere.
It was difficult to get a real feel for the full entertainment portfolio, and we hope that the show we saw was not their best offering.
The theatre itself would appear to be configurable into 3 shapes to offer different styles of entertainment. Along with this nightclub, which can also host shows, it does appear to have great potential.
Cruises feature what Virgin calls a scarlet party, and we had a taste of it on our visit. Ships such as MSC World Europa, Celebrity Edge and Royal Caribbean Oasis class ships have set the bar high in terms of party style entertainment, so let's hope that Brilliant Lady can match that standard.
So at the start of this video, we alluded to a fairly major talking point around the previous 3 Virgin ships. And we were intrigued to see whether Virgin had done anything about it on the Brilliant Lady. And that talking point is the lack of swimming pools. So there is basically one decent sized swimming pool, right as you would expect on one of the upper decks.
But to be honest, I didn't even think that was that big.
And that has been, I would say, a subject to quite a lot of criticism from previous passengers. And Virgin have not changed the design of Brilliant Lady. And when you consider that it's going to spend a lot of its life in the Caribbean, then that, I think, will be something that some passengers will feel quite strongly about. And it might be something that stops you using this ship.
For me personally, one slightly negative thing about the boat was the decor. It's all quite simple and it's all quite repetitive. It's very grey and kind of coloured knots here and there. There's no really lovely artwork to kind of make you go, oh, I'm on deck 10. So yeah, it was all quite bland and nothing really stood out for me.
So the only other observation I have is that the lack of a main dining room, whilst it gives you the specialty restaurants for free, which is a big bonus, I quite like having the same waiter and assistant waiter every meal. So the fact that you don't have that main dining room, you don't build up that rapport, whilst it wouldn't stop me using Virgin, it does make the cruise experience a little bit different.
So all in all, we had the afternoon and evening on Virgin, and we've never cruised with them before. So I guess the big question is, after experiencing this, would we cruise with them? And we both definitely said absolutely yes. So there's an awful lot to like about this boat, and we would really like to try it. And the few negatives that we saw would not put us off trying a lovely week's cruise in the Caribbean. So we're looking forward to sailing with Virgin in the future.
Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget, we've got other cruise reviews on our channel. You'll see one of them right up here now. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. So let's talk about the entertainment now, shall we?
Okay. I didn't know what we're going to do. Do you want to try that again?
All right.